Pale Rider made Clint Eastwood immortal, but behind the legendary Western, the cast faced shocking tragedies, disappearances, and heartbreaking endings nobody expected. Decades later, their real lives became even darker than the movie itself. Clint Eastwood was born on May 31, 1930. He played the mysterious preacher, the ghost-like stranger who rides into a frightened mining camp and becomes the final hope against greed and violence. From his very first appearance emerging through the heat and dust, the preacher feels less like an ordinary gunslinger and more like a supernatural judgment sent to punish corruption. Eastwood understood exactly why the character connected so deeply with audiences in 1985. America had become distrustful of perfect heroes after decades marked by war scandals and social disillusionment. Viewers no longer wanted simple cowboys who always knew right from wrong. They wanted haunted men carrying emotional scars beneath their silence. At 55 years old during filming, Eastwood brought enormous emotional weight into every scene. His performance relied on restraint rather than dramatic speeches. The preacher rarely raises his voice because true danger does not need attention to feel powerful. By the time Pale Rider was released, Eastwood was already legendary thanks to Dirty Harry and the Dollars trilogy. But this role proved he was evolving into a filmmaker, fascinated by morality, aging, and guilt. Off-screen, his life became equally complex, filled with fame relationships, family struggles, and relentless ambition. By 2026, at 95 years old, Clint Eastwood remains one of the final living icons of classic Hollywood, a symbol of endurance in an industry that constantly changes. Michael Moriarty was born on April 5, 1941. He played Hull Barrett, the nervous but determined miner, willing to risk everything to defend his land and protect the people he loves. Unlike traditional Western heroes, Hull is not fearless or physically dominant. He panics, hesitates, and often appears overwhelmed by the violence surrounding him. Yet that vulnerability became one of the emotional foundations of Pale Rider, because audiences saw ordinary human fear inside the character. Moriarty understood that courage feels more meaningful when it comes from someone genuinely terrified. Before Pale Rider, Moriarty had already earned major critical praise for performances that highlighted his intelligence and emotional realism, especially in the last detail. Many critics believed he would become one of the defining actors of his generation. However, Hollywood often rewards conformity more easily than individuality. Moriarty's outspoken personality and conflicts within the entertainment industry slowly pushed him away from mainstream success. In many ways, that mirrored Hull Barrett's own struggle inside Pale Rider, where ordinary people are crushed by systems controlled by wealth and power. What made his performance memorable was its honesty. Hull never feels glamorous or invincible. He behaves like a man painfully aware of how powerless people can become when greed dominates society. By the film's conclusion, his bravery matters because it costs him emotionally. By 2026, at 85 years old, Michael Moriarty remains respected by longtime film lovers who still admire the authenticity and emotional vulnerability he brought to his work. Carrie Snodgress was born on October 27, 1945. She played Sarah Wheeler, the widowed mother struggling to protect her daughter while surviving inside a brutal environment ruled by intimidation and fear. Sarah became one of the emotional anchors of Pale Rider because she represents ordinary people pushed beyond emotional exhaustion, yet refusing to surrender their dignity completely. Snodgress brought extraordinary realism to the role because she understood hardship personally. Her face carried weariness, fear, and resilience without needing dramatic dialogue. Years earlier, Snodgress earned an Academy Award nomination for Diary of a Mad Housewife, where critics praised her painfully honest portrayal of loneliness and emotional frustration. Hollywood immediately recognized her talent, but fame did not shield her from personal difficulties. Her long relationship with musician Neil Young included enormous emotional strain while raising a son with cerebral palsy. Those life experiences gave her performances a depth that could not be manufactured. In Pale Rider, Sarah does not resemble glamorous Western heroines from older films. She looks emotionally drained and deeply wounded, making audiences connect with her even more strongly. One of the movie's most haunting aspects is her emotional connection to the mysterious preacher, as though she senses he may not fully belong to the world of the living. That longing for protection and redemption gave the film much of its emotional soul. Sadly, Carrie Snodgress passed away on April 1, 2004, at only 58 years old from heart failure, leaving behind performances remembered for their raw, emotional honesty. Chris Penn was born on October 10, 1965. He played Josh LaHood, the reckless and emotionally unstable son of powerful mining boss Coy LaHood. Josh spends much of Pale Rider trying to prove his toughness through intimidation and violence, yet beneath the aggression lies deep insecurity and desperation for approval. Penn understood that contradiction perfectly because he experienced enormous pressure in his own life. Growing up as the younger brother of Sean Penn meant constant comparisons followed him throughout Hollywood. No matter how talented he became, many people treated him as if he existed in someone else's shadow. At only 19 years old during filming, Penn brought explosive emotional energy into Pale Rider. Josh feels dangerous precisely because he lacks emotional control. Unlike his father, who represents cold greed and calculated power, Josh behaves impulsively, using cruelty to hide weakness. Penn captured that emotional chaos with remarkable intensity. Audiences could sense frustration, insecurity, and wounded pride beneath every outburst. Later, Penn became widely recognized for unforgettable performances in films like Reservoir Dogs, where his emotional vulnerability made him stand out among stronger personalities. However, behind the scenes, struggles involving addiction, emotional instability, and health problems slowly consumed his life. The tragedy of Chris Penn was that his emotional sensitivity often made him more compelling than polished Hollywood stars. Viewers instinctively felt the pain beneath his performances. Sadly, Chris Penn passed away on January 24, 2006, at only 40 years old from cardiovascular disease, leaving behind a career filled with raw emotional power. Richard Dysart was born on March 30, 1929. He played Coy LaHood, the ruthless mining baron whose greed poisons the entire community in Pale Rider. Unlike many loud Western villains who rely on shouting and constant threats, Coy LaHood feels terrifying because of his calm confidence. Dysart understood that real power often speaks quietly while destroying lives without guilt. At 56 years old during filming, he brought intelligence, authority, and emotional coldness into the role, creating a villain who felt disturbingly believable. Coy believes wealth gives him the right to dominate everything around him, including the futures of ordinary families struggling to survive. That theme gave Pale Rider timeless relevance because audiences recognized similar figures in real life. Before later gaining major fame through the television series LA Law, Dysart had already built a respected career on stage and screen. He specialized in characters whose authority concealed emotional cruelty, making him perfect for Pale Rider. What made his performance so effective was how ordinary he appeared. Coy does not behave like a cartoon monster. Instead, he acts like a successful businessman, completely convinced that his own ambitions justify harming others. Dysart's calm delivery made every threat feel inevitable. He rarely needed violence because his confidence itself created intimidation. Richard Dysart later earned Emmy-winning success and widespread respect throughout Hollywood. Sadly, he passed away on April 5, 2015, at 86 years old after battling cancer, but his performance as Coy LaHood remains one of the most chilling portraits of greed in modern Western cinema. Richard Kiel was born on September 13, 1939. He played Club, the towering enforcer whose enormous physical presence creates fear long before he even speaks. Standing well over 7 feet tall, Kiel became one of the most visually unforgettable actors in Hollywood history. Many viewers already recognized him as Jaws from the James Bond films, but Pale Rider used his appearance in a darker and more grounded way. Club does not feel like a colorful movie villain. Instead, he resembles a silent weapon sent to intimidate and destroy resistance. Kiel understood how to use stillness as intimidation. He barely needed dialogue because audiences immediately sensed danger whenever he entered a scene. Yet the reality of Richard Kiel's personality was completely different from the frightening characters he often portrayed. Friends and co-workers frequently described him as gentle, intelligent, and remarkably kind. That contrast reflected one of Hollywood's harsh realities, where actors are often trapped by appearance and repeatedly cast into similar roles. In Pale Rider Club represents the brutal physical force behind corruption, the type of man powerful people use to spread fear without asking moral questions. His silence almost makes him more terrifying because viewers project their own anxieties onto him. Despite being remembered for intimidating roles, Kiel spent decades earning admiration for his warmth and generosity off-screen. Sadly, Richard Kiel passed away on September 10, 2014. At 74 years old, due to complications related to heart disease. Looking back now, his performance in Pale Rider feels both haunting and strangely tragic. Sidney Penny was born on August 7, 1971. She played Megan Wheeler, the young girl whose desperate prayer becomes the emotional center of Pale Rider. While audiences often remember the film for Clint Eastwood's mysterious preacher and the violent confrontations surrounding the mining camp, Megan represented something far more fragile and important: innocence, struggling to survive inside a brutal world. At only 13 years old during filming, Sidney Penny delivered a performance filled with sincerity and emotional vulnerability far beyond her age. Megan witnesses fear, greed, and death long before a child should understand such darkness, yet she never completely loses hope. That innocence gave the film much of its haunting spiritual atmosphere. When Megan prays for help and the preacher suddenly appears, the story quietly hints at supernatural forces moving beneath the surface. Penny made audiences believe in that mystery, unlike many child actors who disappeared after early success. Sidney Penny built a stable television career, especially through soap operas like All My Children. Yet Pale Rider remains one of her most beloved performances because Megan symbolized hope during a time of despair. By 2026, at 54 years old, Sidney Penny is still remembered fondly by longtime Western fans who recognize how much emotional depth she brought to the story at such a young age. John Russell was born on January 3, 1921. He played Marshal Stockburn, the cold and terrifying lawman whose arrival transforms Pale Rider from a traditional Western into something far darker and more unsettling. Stockburn is not simply a villain hunting the mysterious preacher. He feels like death itself finally catching up to a violent past that neither man can escape. By the time the film was made, Russell had already spent decades becoming one of Hollywood's most recognizable Western actors. His weathered face, commanding voice, and hardened screen presence carried the weight of America's old frontier mythology. At 64 years old during filming, Russell brought genuine emotional exhaustion into the role. Stockburn feels like a man hollowed out after a lifetime surrounded by bloodshed and brutality. That weariness became central to the movie's deeper meaning about whether men shaped by violence can ever truly find redemption. Older audiences immediately recognized Russell from countless classic Western productions, making his performance even more powerful because he represented the fading generation of traditional cowboy stars. Sadly, John Russell passed away on January 19, 1991, at 70 years old, from complications related to emphysema. Looking back today, his role in Pale Rider feels symbolic. Through Stockburn, Russell embodied the final ghost of Hollywood's classic Western era, slowly disappearing as both America and cinema entered a different cultural age. Fran Ryan was born on November 29, 1916. She played Ma Blankenship, the tough and stubborn woman who refuses to abandon the mining camp despite the fear and violence closing in around everyone. Although her role was smaller than some of the leading characters, Ryan brought enormous emotional realism into Pale Rider because she represented ordinary people who survived through endurance rather than heroics. At 68 years old during filming, she carried the life experience of someone who had lived through the Great Depression, World War II, and dramatic changes inside American society. That wisdom quietly shaped her performance. Ma Blankenship understands fear, but she also understands that surrendering dignity can destroy people faster than violence itself. Before Pale Rider Ryan spent decades building a respected career portraying sharp-tongued but deeply human women across television and film. Audiences trusted her instantly because she never felt artificial or glamorous. She felt real. Her weathered face and grounded acting style helped make the mining camp feel believable, filled with people struggling simply to survive another day. Pale Rider may focus on gunslingers and revenge, but Ryan reminded viewers that courage often belongs to ordinary people who continue standing their ground when everything around them collapses. Sadly, Fran Ryan passed away on January 15, 2000 at 83 years old. Her performance still stands as a quiet reminder that resilience can sometimes be the strongest form of heroism. Charles Hallahan was born on July 29, 1943. He played McGill, one of the miners struggling to survive against the growing power and intimidation of Coy LaHood's empire in Pale Rider. Hallahan specialized in portraying ordinary working men trapped inside impossible situations, which made him perfect for the role. McGill is not a flashy hero or dramatic leader. Instead, he represents hardworking people slowly crushed by greed, corruption, and economic pressure. Hallahan's grounded acting style gave the film emotional realism because audiences recognized people like McGill from their own communities and everyday lives. Before Pale Rider, Hallahan had already earned respect as one of Hollywood's finest character actors through films such as The Thing and Silkwood. Directors trusted him because he brought honesty into every performance regardless of screen time. At 42 years old during filming, Hallahan gave McGill a believable mixture of exhaustion, fear, and stubborn pride. The miners know they are outmatched, but surrendering the land would mean losing their identity completely. That emotional truth connected strongly with older audiences who had witnessed labor struggles and social inequality throughout American history. Tragically, Charles Hallahan passed away suddenly on November 25, 1997, at only 54 years old after suffering a heart attack. Looking back now, McGill symbolizes the forgotten backbone of America, ordinary workers whose sacrifices are often ignored until they disappear. Jeffrey Weissman was born on October 2, 1958. He played Teddy Conway, one of the frightened miners trying to survive inside the dangerous environment surrounding the camp in Pale Rider. Teddy is not portrayed as fearless, which made him emotionally believable to audiences. Instead, he reacts the way many ordinary people would react when violence suddenly enters everyday life with uncertainty, fear, and hesitation. Weissman understood how to bring humanity into smaller supporting roles, making Teddy feel like a genuine person instead of background decoration. At 27 years old during filming, Weissman was still working to establish himself in Hollywood while facing the instability experienced by many young actors. Ironically, he later became widely known after replacing Crispin Glover as George McFly in Back to the Future Part 2, a situation that later influenced major discussions about actor likeness rights in Hollywood. Yet Pale Rider captured Weissman before that controversy, during a simpler stage of his career. By 2026, at 67 years old, he continues to be appreciated by longtime movie fans who recognize the importance of strong supporting actors in creating believable cinematic worlds. Doug McGrath was born on April 13, 1935. He played Spider Conway, one of Marshal Stockburn's deadly deputies, whose quiet presence adds tension and menace to Pale Rider's final act. Spider rarely needs dramatic dialogue because McGrath understood how dangerous silence could become in a Western. Through subtle expressions and cold body language, he created a man completely comfortable with violence. By 1985, McGrath had already spent years building a career through Westerns and television appearances, becoming one of those familiar character actors audiences instantly recognized even if they did not always remember his name. That familiarity helped Pale Rider feel connected to Hollywood's older frontier storytelling tradition. At 50 years old during filming, McGrath avoided exaggerated villainy and instead portrayed Spider as emotionally empty, a man whose conscience disappeared long ago. Pale Rider repeatedly explores how violence destroys humanity, and Spider represents that moral decay perfectly. Unlike younger, hot-headed gunmen, Spider kills with calm patience, which makes him even more unsettling. By 2026, at 91 years old, Doug McGrath remains one of the surviving links to the classic Western era and its unforgettable atmosphere. More than 40 years later, Pale Rider still stands as a haunting reminder that courage often comes from ordinary people facing impossible darkness. Some cast members found lasting fame, while others faced heartbreaking endings that mirrored the loneliness inside the film itself. Yet their performances continue inspiring generations of movie lovers. If you enjoyed revisiting these legendary stars and their unforgettable stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into Hollywood classics and the hidden truths behind them.